Long after the last true emperor fell, when the Roman eagle had become little more than a fading standard on crumbling banners, Rome still breathed, but it no longer lived. The marble palaces stood like ghosts. The gods, once fed with fire and worship, were now forgotten beneath layers of dust. And in the shadow of the mighty Colosseum, cracked by time but still towering, stood a man who did not belong to the present. He was not a politician, not a noble, not even free. He was a gladiator, the last of his kind. His name was Aelius Ferox, and while the world above him shifted with corruption and decay, Aelius had made an oath in the darkness below, an oath of blood and honor whispered through the stones of the empire's veins. Aelius was born not in a villa or a barrack, but in a holding pen for slaves. His mother, a former healer, died giving birth. His father, unknown, though some whispered he'd once been a champion of the arena. Raised by silence, Aelius learned early that freedom was a myth, and pain was the language of Rome. But even as a child, there was a fire in his eyes that could not be chained. The overseers saw it, the trainers feared it. At 12, he was chosen, not for mercy, but for the sands. By the time Aelius entered the Colosseum, it was no longer the grand theater of honor it had once been. The games were fewer, the crowds more savage, the purpose more political than ceremonial. Gladiators were no longer heroes. They were pawns, thrown to beasts for the entertainment of senators with stained hands. But Aelius didn't fight for spectacle. He fought to survive, yes, but also to understand. Each battle taught him rhythm, fear, and the poetry of violence. He wasn't the strongest, but he was the most patient, the most watchful. And so, while many died for sport, Aelius lived for something deeper, a legacy not yet written. Beneath the arena, in chambers older than the empire itself, lived those who once defined it, the aging gladiators who had survived far past their time. These were the custodes ferrum, the guardians of the blade. Legends whose names had once brought roars, now forgotten by a world drunk on decadence. They had watched Aelius, whispered about him, tested him in the shadows with riddles and bruises. When he passed their trials, they gave him what no gladiator had been offered in generations. Knowledge not of how to fight, but why. They taught him that a blade was not just for killing, but for remembering, that every scar told a truth, and every arena was a mirror of the empire's soul. Word reached the Brotherhood that a final fight was being staged, not in the Colosseum, but in a secret arena beneath the ruined baths of Caracalla, a place reserved for spies, nobles, and those who played the empire like a game of dice. The host, a shadowy patrician, hoping to crown a new kind of champion, one loyal not to Rome, but to the corruption that now ruled it. The chosen opponent for Aelius was Varus, a name that still curdled the blood of old warriors. Varus had once fought beside the Custodes. Now he served the new Rome, executing for gold, a butcher in bronze armor. The night was silent. There were no chants, no drums, only the cold, ritualistic hum of anticipation. When Aelius stepped into the torch-lit ring, every eye fell silent, as if even they felt that something ancient had returned. Varus arrived last, towering, covered in the scars of betrayal. Their blades met with the sound of memory, sharp and echoing. Every swing was a story, every dodge, a decision not to be erased. Aelius fought not for the crowd, nor for victory. He fought to show the empire what it had lost, its soul. As blood slicked the sand and the audience leaned in like vultures, Aelius found his opening. He disarmed Varus, the blade at his throat, Rome at his mercy. But then, he stopped. "I will not be your monster," Aelius said, voice cutting the silence like thunder. "Rome may forget, but we will remember." He threw down his sword, a gesture more powerful than any strike. Gasps, panic. Varus collapsed, not from wounds, but from shame. The host declared Aelius an enemy of the empire. But before they could act, the lights went dark, and the custodes ferrum vanished with their chosen one. Aelius Ferox was never seen again. Some say he was hunted and killed in the eastern sands. Others say he became a teacher in disguise, passing the Gladiator code to rebels and philosophers. Centuries later, buried beneath a crumbling villa, a scroll was discovered. The arena never ends. It merely changes shape. In every battle, in every battle, in every life. Fight not for blood, but for memory. And so, the last gladiator lives on. In every story, every sacrifice, and in the echo of every soul that dares to stand alone.